to see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose once and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. USA, USA, USA. Hi, everybody. Glad to see you tonight. And if you were a guest tonight, we'd like to invite you back next month. Come see us again. We enjoy seeing new people, and maybe you'll learn some stuff and come join us. If you are members returning, we appreciate your support. You really do a lot for our club by coming here and giving us your support and helping with our speakers and that type of thing. Tonight I want to just take a moment of silence in honor of all of our men and women that gave the ultimate sacrifice for our country. So let's just take a moment, please. Okay, I know there's people out here that probably have people that they've lost through the different wars, and that I have an uncle that was shot down over Belgium, and so I like to always remember the fact that we lost quite a bit men in World War II. I would like to ask Marie Simpson to come up and lead us in prayer.
Good evening. Let me give you a little scripture passage here first. Now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, and by our gathering together unto him, that ye be not soon shaken in mind or be troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter as from us, as that the day of Christ is at hand. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. Amen. Let us pray. Most gracious God, our Father, we come here tonight, gathered together as a group of like-minded people. Father, we come and we just want to praise you and thank you for all the blessings that you have bestowed upon us. Father, we thank you that you put this man in office to pull the covers back on what's going on in these United States. Father, we ask for blessings upon each and every one of the people here in this community, this county, in this state, that are doing the things according to your will, Father. Father, there are many things out there. This is going to be a difficult time. But then, as in that scripture said, the covers had to be pulled back. And our president is doing just that. Father, I don't want anybody be worried and concerned about him getting everything done, because he's not going to get it done, Father. It's too much that's been built up. But he's here to tear it down and start the rebuilding, Father. So, Father, we ask in the mighty name of Jesus that you just continue to bless these people that are doing things the right way, And the right way is your way, which is the only way. Father, bless these blessings in the mighty name of Jesus. And all God's people said,
Amen.
Thank you, Maurice. So James is going to lead us in our pledges.
All right, if you go ahead and join me. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
honor the Texas flag. I
Pledge
pledge
allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
And now, can I have all my veterans and their wives stand, please? Wives do as much, they're standing by those veterans, so let's recognize them too. Now all of our elected officials, up again. Thanks. Next month, our speaker will be our state representative, Shelby Slauson. This will be at the end of the session, and I know she'll be able to give us some insight on what went wrong and what is the plan going forward to save some of the Republican priorities. There were supposedly 88 Republicans elected to the Texas House, but turned out there were only a little over 20 that were actually Texas red. The remainder are trans Republicans that voted with the Democrats to control the power of the House. We've got to change this, people. Somehow we have to get these others out. I know that Charlie Duran has been there almost as long as I've been involved in politics, and that's been at least 10, 15 years. And he needs to be gone, okay? He needs to be gone.
That's right.
Okay, I want to present an idea that a guy, Robert Rogers, brought to the Tea Party years ago, and it worked out pretty well. And what it was is that I know a lot of us don't have just extra money laying around that we can donate to our local people that are running for office and that. But what Brett brought to us was a deal that if we saved $25 a month, and that for the next few months, I've kind of figured out that if we save each of us $25 a month until January 1, that would be $1,750. Okay? If half of the membership of the club saved that, it would be $8,700. So that's quite a bit because our local people really need the help. It's not cheap to run for office, and so they need your help. So please commit to do that. And then let me know if you decide to take this on. It'd be fun to know. And let's get it together and help these people out that are going to be running. I want to bring... Okay, I want to give a quick reference that was given to the Tea Party. I'm a big Tea Party person tonight. I don't know if you realize that. We're big Tea Party people. I'm guessing about 10 years ago, I know Dave Eagle and Don Poe and probably Maurice remember, we had a family here in Granbury that had moved here from South Africa and told the story very similar to what Trump is talking about now. Now this has been, I'm going to say, at least a good 10 years ago. How he was afraid when they left their compound every day that he may not be able to return because he wouldn't be sure he wasn't slaughtered and killed on the way. He told about if he got back, he was worried that his family might still be alive because they were coming in and killing the families. So this has been going on ever since Mandela was released from prison and rose to power. Now, I'm not saying that Mandela caused this. I'm using that as a kind of a reference in the era of how long this has been going on. So this is not something new that Trump has discovered. This is something that needs attention. So I wanted to bring to you guys tonight that we had a couple that had come here and talked about this years ago. Okay, now we're going to have a report from our Sentinel team. Nate Criswell is going to come up and fill us in on what's been happening in Austin. So it's It's been a lot. It's been a lot.
Good evening, Hood County Republicans. How's everyone doing tonight? We're going to go over about 8,000 votes in the next 5 minutes, so grab your pens and paper. Let me start by saying we will end the session with a little less than half of the items listed on the Republican Party of Texas Legislative Priorities website. We'll get it about a little less than half of this. So some people may say it's a glass half full, others half glass, half empty, but it's all a matter of your perspective. That said, we did secure some solid wins that reflect our values, and I'm proud to report that our state representative Shelby Slauson and our state senator Brian Birdwell stood with us far more often than not. On gun rights, SB 1596, legalizing short barrel firearms in Texas, has passed both chambers, with Slauson and Birdwell voting in favor. HB 3053, banning the taxpayer-funded gun buybacks that you see in some of these big blue cities, passed the House and cleared the Senate's second reading. If the Senate doesn't take that up by tomorrow at midnight, it will die in the Senate. SB 1362, which would ban red flag laws, is stalled on the House floor right now. If it doesn't get a vote before midnight in the affirmative, it dies in the House, but it did pass the Senate, and Birdwell did vote in favor of that. For border security and immigration, several bills advanced. HB 34, banning the taxpayer money investments in hostile nations, and SB 17, prohibiting land ownership by hostile nationals, both passed with Slauson and Birdwell voting in favor. HB 5646, ending in-state tuition levels for illegals, passed the House with Slauson's support, but only reached the Senate's intent calendar. Again, if that doesn't get heard by tonight at midnight, it's dead. SB 324, mandating E-Verify for all employers, passed the Senate with Birdwell's vote, but has stalled in the House State Affairs Committee. There's no chance of passage on that at this time. However, HB 2858 by Drew Darby, which outlined a guest worker program, basically giving legal status to illegals who find an employer to sponsor them, failed in the House, and I'm proud to report that Slauson did vote against that, so she voted the correct way. For education, SB 2, the biggest school choice program ever launched, passed both chambers and has been signed into law. It takes effect September 1st. That's a huge deal. Both Slauson and Birdwell voted in favor. Now, HB 4, aiming to abolish the STAR test, passed the House, but only reached the Senate's intent calendar. On public decency and free speech, HB 3225, removing explicit materials from the children's section of the library, passed the House with Slauson's vote, but didn't make it to the Senate intent calendar. However, SB 412, which takes away the affirmative defense for educators, librarians, and other people who right now are protected and show explicit material to children, has passed both chambers and has already been signed into law. Those protections will no longer be there. HB 366 by disgraced former Speaker of the House Dave Phelan, which would criminalize political memes, passed the House. Slauson voted against it, so that's good. She voted for free speech, and it was DOA in the Senate. Dan Patrick said we're not even going to entertain that bill. For bond transparency, we actually just passed, and this has been underreported, sweeping bond transparency legislation. SB 843, HB 3526, and HB 103 together create databases managed by the TEA and the Comptroller's Office for school and local government bonds that give all the information you want to know, the current debt outstanding, the projected impact on the property taxes, everything. And it passed with full support from Slauson and Birdwell. For elections, HB 5138 allows the Texas Attorney General to prosecute certain election crimes and passed with both Slauson and Birdwell's support. That's scheduled to be signed into law this year. SB 16, requiring proof of citizenship to vote, passed the Senate with Birdwell's vote, but has seemingly died in the House. For the electric grid, which is one of our RPT legislative priorities, SB 2148 focused on securing Texas grid, passed with both Slauson and Birdwell voting in favor. Now, while we made a lot of progress, this session was a bit of a mixed bag, seeing the election of Dustin Burrows as House Speaker, and unfortunately, the $2.5 billion in tax breaks for Hollywood films that get filmed here.
That's right.
Unfortunately, Brian Birdwell did vote for the Hollywood tax breaks. Slauson did vote against it. And then we have HB 3441, which would hold vaccine manufacturers liable for injury. That passed the House, but will die in the Senate tonight unless it gets taken up, which it could. I don't know. And if you want to stay up to date, there are cards on your table for Texans Texans for Fiscal Responsibility. If you scan the bottom left QR code, you can sign up and get daily alerts in your email. It tells you the big votes that are coming up that day, a little bit about them. And why you should care. How am I doing on time? Okay. Since I've got a little bit of time left, there was another thing that affects a lot of us here locally. If you live outside the city limits of Granbury, within 1 mile, you are in the ETJ. The taxpayer-funded lobbyists, aka the sneaky weasels at Texas Municipal League, snuck an amendment to a local bill that would have robbed most people of their ability to petition for release from the ETJ of the city. I'm happy to report I was able to go down there, speak in front of the Senate Local Government Committee, and point out these statewide implications. And with all this legislation passed, I think it was an honest mistake on the part of Phil King. He gave me his word that he would make an amendment on the floor, and I was just notified via email that that has now passed. So, again, a bit of a mixed bag. Thank you guys all, and sign up for emails from Texans for Fiscal Responsibility. Thank you.
So our other sort of report comes from the local, and James Wall is going to come up and talk about Commissioner's Court.
All right. Well, thank you, Sharon. And I'll just start off by saying I don't know how to follow up what Nate just went ahead and told everybody. I mean, that was a whirlwind of good news for the state of Texas. That said, we do have a few developments here in the local side of politics as well. We're going to start with GISD first. So at GISD, we went ahead and we had a resolution on the table proposed by one of the school board trustees, Trustee Barbara Townsend, to go ahead and to move elections specifically to off years, so only 2023, 2025, 2027 years like that. Eliminate even year elections and expand terms from 3 years to 4 years. After a lot of conversation, having a lot of public comments, including from such constituents like Monica Brown, Dave Rogers, Don Johnson, and even myself, and after tense debate from Trustees Bolton and Lowry, Barbara Townsend decided to reconsider her options and pull it from the agenda altogether. Additionally, let me just go ahead and pull the room real fast. I know a few of y'all probably heard of Walsh & Gallegos, the law firm that takes care of the school district. How do we feel about Walsh & Gallegos in this room?
Boo!
Yeah, I know, I feel the same way. Well, I got good news to tell you on that too. As of last week at the school board meeting, we have officially began the transitioning point by hiring a new legal firm in Leland and Cross to go ahead and to begin taking up certain sections of our legal side at the school district, specifically public grievances and public reports, information requests. Well, it's a small step in the right direction. This is a good step in the right direction as we go ahead and we begin to make things right in this school district. Finally, I'm going to go ahead and switch gears though, and we're going to go to County Commissioner's Court, where today it was just announced the YMCA is officially buying the county building that has been under tense debate on social media. We've heard plenty of things about it. This is the end of that chapter, as the YMCA is here to stay in Hood County, but this is a win-win for the county, as the YMCA isn't going ahead and giving us $1 a year on their lease, but rather they are going ahead and actually giving us a lump sum payment that's going to put cash in the bank for this county. So these are some great wins for the county. I'm looking forward to the next few months, hopefully going ahead and coming back up here and telling you more good reports. Thank you, and God bless.
starting into the end of the 2025 year. We have candidates that are starting to throw their hat in the ring. And tonight we have two of them. And the first one is Ron Sutton. If you want to come on up, Ron. He's going to be running for county judge. So please welcome Ron Sutton.
Thank you, Madam President. It's good to be here with all of you folks. You know, I've noticed that one of the big differences between Republicans and Democrats, real Republicans, are happy people. I've been seeing a lot of smiling faces, a lot of lively conversation, and as Bill Miller, our dear friend of party, would say, it sounds like liberty. Sharon, thank you for allowing the privilege to speak tonight. Like Sharon said, my name is Ron Sutton, and I'm here to ask each of you for your vote to become and serve you as the next county judge of Hood County. Before I get too far into this, I'd like to introduce my beautiful and intelligent and talented wife, Barbara Sutton. Barbara, would you stand up just to make sure everybody knows who you are? Thank you for being here. My roots go deep in Texas. I'm a member of the descendants of Stephen F. Austin's 0300 and the Sons of the Republic of Texas. If any of y'all would like information on how to become members, I'd be happy to discuss that with you. I went to school in Abilene, Texas, elementary through Hardin-Simmons University, just like my friend, Terry Magnew. And I don't know how Terry avoided me for 4 years, especially since we had mutual friends from Brady, Texas. But Terry was a breath of fresh air on that. Do we have any ACC or ACU grads here? Chris, do y'all still call us hardened sinners? No, that's just not right. And there's another one, same deal.
I was a consultant for them in 5 campaigns, from Judge Fletcher all the way up until a few years ago.
Nice.
We were in
Nice.
$200 million.
That's great. I'm a competent and caring conservative. I'm well equipped spiritually, mentally, and physically to serve you as county judge. But not only to serve you as county judge, but to serve you as a real good county judge. And that's important. And that's why I'm here to ask for your vote, to vote for Ron Sutton to serve as your next county judge. There's something that I didn't want to miss telling you about. As a strong leader and team player, I'll work alongside all elected officials to make sure that Hood County government operates effectively, efficiently, and for the well-being of all of our citizens. You know, President Reagan nailed it when he said, it's not that we're taxed too little, it's that the government spends too much. I'm sure I'll hear an amen on that. Things just don't change, do they? And I'm certainly with President Trump when he says, America first. And that means to me, taxpayers are first. We must demand that spending is regulated and that fiscal accountability is ensured on all of our elected leaders. It's most important. Some of my foundational beliefs. Our rights. All of our rights are God-given. God's holy word, the Bible, followed by our Bill of Rights and the Constitutions of the United States and Texas, are the most important words ever written. I focus on positive governance. Positive governance is government of the people, by the people, for the people. And that type of government will ensure a strong, safe, and prosperous Hood County well into the future. And again, that's why I want to serve you as your next county judge. I'm Ron Sutton, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Our next candidate, you know him well. He's been our mayor for a while, and he's thrown his hat back in the room for another.
For all of you who've heard me say, I can't say that. No, I will not be running for mayor. I have, let's see, I've had my mind, I've changed my mind. I've not had my mind changed. I've changed my mind. I look out there and there's just way too much going on to be changing horses at this period of time. And I wouldn't do it if I had completed all of the things that I wanted to do, needed to be done in the city. But I am going to continue on because we just have way too much. We're going to talk about 377 a little bit. We will also talk about the housing additions that are going on, the major business additions that are going on, and all of those things that take money to make happen. And everybody looks and says, well, where's the taxpayer? Let's get some more money from them. I'm saying, no, let's don't do that. Let's make sure that we are, thank you, Ron, for the leading on that. Let's make sure that we are spending the money that we have appropriately and frugally, because there's always a better way if you look for it. And in fact, 3 years ago, we were looking for it. We found money that was rightfully each and every one of yours, each taxpayers, that had been stowed away in our appraisal district for a rainy day or a new building. I've forgotten what it was that they wanted at that point in time. Well, this past year, and thank you, James, for mentioning Gallegos and the law firm and the fact that they are going to change that. And thank you, Ron, for making sure that they changed the accounting firm at HCAD. Ron's the guy that stood up and said, no, it is not a automatic that you get to renew your contract. You put it out for bid. And as I recall, it was only 2/3 cheaper by putting it out for bid. That's not the important piece. When they did the first year's audit, they had to restate the old auditor's numbers by $1 million, which sort of excited me. I think I'll go look and see what's happening. And lo and behold, over the last 5 years prior to that, before any of us were here, there was another $1,042,000 that got added to the retirement plan. Not budgeted for. Budgeted for was another 1.9, but they got another 1.42 added to that budget, and we're going to be talking about that over time with the proper people. In fact, we already are. But that's why I'm running for mayor. That's one of the reasons. We have to make sure that we spend our money, and your money, we spend your money appropriately. Otherwise, it's going to be, it'll be spent, I guarantee you. So, I ask for your support. I've had your support. You've been had my back, and I am very thankful for that, and I'll be thankful for your vote coming forward in November 4th. All right.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, so what do we got now? Scott's not here for our lesson. So we talked. Pass the basket for donations. Nothing's too small. But along with your dues, this helps us pay and provide for speakers, our essay contest, and general maintenance. While we're passing the basket, get out your tickets. We have a couple of door prizes. Slide to the left. I don't have any place to stash my door prizes. So I found this little ensemble here that I thought with vacation coming up, this would be fun. You can put like kids' little toys in there or little accessories in that as you get ready to make your vacation plans. So I thought this would be kind of cute to have. So, I'm gonna dig down deep. 765. Seven, 6, 5. Who is it? Okay, Tony. Our next door prize is a $25 Visa so that you can go out and buy something really nice, really great. You want to do it? Or are you going to do it in pocket so I can't see? Can't see anyway. Well, this isn't much different. 7, 8, 5. That's me. Oh. Congratulations. Yeah. All right. Our speaker tonight comes from us from Van Zandt County, Nancy White. She's a citizen like you and I, but heard a calling and became a subject matter expert on invasion of the BESS facilities in Texas. And if you don't know what the BESS stands for, that's Battery Energy Storage Systems. And so why this is a concern, of course she's going to go into this by detail, is that they're starting to infiltrate Texas with these big machines. They take a lot of power to run them. So to have these, then guess what? Then we have to have more gas power plants. And that goes into the Wolf Hollow issue that Shannon Wolf has been working on out at Mitchell Bend. So this is something that doesn't just concern Mitchell Bend, it concerns everybody. Because I live right across the lake from Membrino Highway, and back where Mitchell Bend runs there. So if the south wind's blowing and toxins are flying, then I'm going to get them too. And so is everybody else. So this is not just a Mitchell Bend problem. I want to bring that out so you guys can go out to protecthoodcounty.com and help Shannon with her efforts out there at Mitchell Bend to become a city. It's really a great project. They've done a lot of work and really good at it. I'm sorry, Nancy, I can't believe you're talking about. I just wanted to make sure Shannon got that plug so that you guys would get involved with that. Again, it's protecthoodcounty.com. And it's very important that we really get into this and help them. Okay? Anyway, our speaker tonight is Nancy White. And like I say, she's just done this terrific work. I've heard about her for a while. And so I'm proud to have her here with us.
She's trying to run away without a walking cane. So, for the record, I was wide awake, had an energy drink and everything for this after this drive. That food was delicious. I'm ready to go to bed now. It was so good. So good. So I just want to start kind of bit about how I got here and a bit about me. So I live in the woods, and it's my happy place. I do foraging and holistic health. That's my happy thing to do. I make teas and tinctures, and I play with kids because I homeschool. And there was a battery energy storage build coming in next to my house. We're going to cover that in a bit of detail to kind of help give you an idea of what you can do at home as well. And the more I learned, the more concerned and red flags that I came across. And here's the thing, if somebody can tell me that I'm safe, my kids are safe, and my home is safe, then I'm fine. The problem is I haven't gotten where I've gotten because they told me it was safe. It's because they either can't tell me, won't tell me, or everything says that it's not. And I'm going to provide you all of that. With that said, I'm going to be throwing a lot of information at you in a very short time. I do have sources for anything and everything, and I'm happy to give you my card, email it to you. You can take pictures, use it as you want. I firmly believe that the best way that this can be handled is that we share information with each other. So, with that said, for those that do not know, what is a battery energy storage system? Maybe I'm the problem. Technology is not my thing. There it is. Okay, so if you'll play that for me, I just want y'all to see what this looks like.
While one unit was offline, it was safe to see inside a typical battery energy storage box.
Each one of the little silver boxes is about 22 small lithium-ion battery cells.
How many homes could a system like this power when it's online?
A system like this could probably power about 22 homes. It's just for this one unit.
Okay, so if you didn't catch that, it's one cell stacked on top of each other and the other, so that's why you see different units. There's on average 22 cells in each metal container. Think of the metal container kind of like when you see an 18-wheeler hauling those big metal containers. Think of it like that, but they're smaller, and incidentally, the steel that they are encompassed in is actually thinner. It's 1/8 of an inch of steel on average. On top of that, let's see if this goes. Do I point this way? Okay, there. So this one I want to come back to, but I'm going to go ahead and cover it because I just want to emphasize this. So what that looks like is the batteries inside of them, those lithium cells, one on top of the other. There's an incident that occurs when they get oxygen to them, air, or even moisture of any kind, such as water, fog, for instance. They start to off-gas. And when they start to off-gas, you see carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, hydrogen fluoride, hydrogen cyanide, arsenic. There are 7 toxic gases that are emitted whenever it starts to off-gas. And then it also releases hydrocarbons that actually cause it to ignite. Now, you can kind of see from this image that when it starts, it goes quickly. That's 90 seconds up there, and that's how long it took for that fire to grow. 2 important details, 3 technically. So as it's doing this, it's emitting those toxic gases. It does this in seconds, and it goes above 3,000 degrees in that seconds. So in 90 seconds, you're already above 3,000 degrees. And that's just for one cell. Mind you, he said there's 22 in there. So one catches fire, and then another, and then another. It's called a runaway. That's what they call it. And there's typically on average about 47 containers of these on a 100 megawatt site, which is approximately 150,000 pounds of lithium. But this is somebody in Mason County. This is Chris Dyer. He's a retired Marine. He left. He was a gunny. He left the military. He wanted to move closer to his first grandchild and wanted to sell his home and couldn't because they built this 20 feet, 25 feet from his back fence, and it's 100 feet from his dinner table. So if you'll play that, I want you to see what that sounds like on his back porch.
So this is, make sure you can see that, 7:52 on Friday the 14th, Valentine's Day. Peace and quiet. Nathan Vallejo, I think his last name is, and Peter Marshall both said.
Okay, so did you hear that? That's what that sounds like. It is not quiet. They will tell you it does not have any sound. But you can hear very clearly from there that there is plenty of
And you can even see the lights through his fence. He said that deer will activate it, birds will activate it. So you have a motion-censored light in mostly unincorporated areas. And I want to emphasize this because I want you to understand that this is not just a one-county issue. There are currently more than 950 battery energy storage systems planned. When you start to add in solar and wind, it's going to be 3 million acres of Texas land used for solar, wind, and batteries. And I cannot emphasize enough that the moment these go onto that property, onto that Texas land, it can no longer be used for ag. And I will go into that. So this, you can see the batteries that we had in the video on the left, but on the right is my home. And I want you to see what's going on here. So in the top left picture is the, sorry, I walk around a lot. In the top left image, that one is the layout of the land. That is the acreage. It's 46.68 acres, I believe is the exact number, but it's right under 47. On the right, those little green line-looking things, those are the battery units they're planning to put out there. The company building this is Tulare Energy. It's a 100 megawatt site. It may produce 1.9 hours of energy, of power. 1.9 for all of those batteries you see there. That's it, for the entire site. So then you go a step further, and you can't see it very well from here, but that little blue box on the right, that right there is right by the substation right there. So if you're looking at the property, I'm going to paint you a picture. You're standing from the main highway there. You're looking at it. On the left, there is a county road with about 6 houses, mostly retired individuals over 60. On the right side is the substation. On the back end of the property is 2 ranchers, one with 600 acres and one with 300 acres. The rancher that's by that blue, he has a watershed. Now, if you've never been to East Texas, if you have or have not, there's a lake over there. It's called Cedar Creek Lake. It's managed and ran by Tarrant Regional Water District. It is where 7 counties in Texas get their water, including Tarrant County, which is where Fort Worth resides, okay? It is roughly just over 1,900 feet from that watershed. So you can see kind of in the middle, it's 1986. And you see how that this image on the right is that little blue dot in the center far right? That's that watershed. That's his pond right in the middle of what you see on the left is part of that reservoir. If Cedar Creek Lake gets contaminated, that's more than 1.7 million people impacted in water. But that's still not the worst case. So going a bit further, the Carrizo-Wilcox Aquifer is right there underneath that subterranean. It's roughly 66 counties wide, and it spans just under 26,000 square miles, okay? This is where Ozarka gets their water from. If this is contaminated, which often is by lithium is one of the highest pollutants for water, which we're going to cover that, then those water sources are no longer usable. Before I go into water a bit further, there's one more thing I want to add that is a key detail about what's going on in Van Zandt County to show you just how unregulated and unsafe these are. What you didn't see very well is there's a green line running up in front of that property along the longest part of it. That green line is a federal pipeline. It runs from Galveston all the way up to Hammond, Indiana. It's 1,800 plus miles long, and it carries jet fuel and diesel. Okay? It is not that far under the ground. I asked the railroad commissioner, and I said, if this burns at 3,000 plus degrees, how long until the pressure affects that pipe? And they said, not that long. It can cause it to explode because the heat builds up the pressure, and it's plus 3,000 degrees, and sometimes it's over 26,000 degrees, and it's right there. So we're going to go a bit further into that. We're going to circle back to that, but I want you to know that that's been a key part of our discussion. So, back to water. Why are we talking about possible contamination of water sources? Is that even really a thing? Unfortunately, it is. Fredericktown, Missouri, there was a lithium processing plant, and I say this because it's lithium. They had state-of-the-art safety measures in place, and more than 5 miles out, so this says 3, but you can look it up online, it's more than 5 now that they've proven, they found dead fish and wildlife. More than 3 miles out, we'll use this one. Now, EPA had 22 sensors there at the time. They said everything was fine. To be clear, they only released 7 of the downwind sensors. 10 of their other sensors failed, and the other 5 they didn't release that were upwind where this is. And you can find the images from Fredericktown, Missouri. So, on the right, you're right, is Moss Landing. That's California, Monterey Bay. If you haven't heard about the battery energy storage system that went into runaway, that activated on January 16th of this year. It reactivated 2 more times like a trick candle, because here's the thing, you cannot put water on lithium. You cannot, like I told you, it activates it. And they have it in a bay, and it was foggy, and it reactivated 2 more times. And when it reactivates, what I mean is it's re-releasing those toxic gases. It is recontaminating the area. Well, we're going to go a step further. So, if you scan this QR code, that will take you to all of the lab reports for air, water, land, and people from Monterey Bay, California. In that, you're going to find that they had arsenic, barium, and lithium in their water wells and water sources. That is on there. They had heavy metals in their land. And that's not going to quite apply here, and I'll explain why. But over 15 people tested positive for lithium poisoning in their blood more than 8 miles away. The contamination zone was more than 30 miles away. So if you're looking on the left, those little heat source looking things, that's where they tested. That's where they got the lab testing from. On the right is all the people that reported symptoms after the fire for over a month. And I mean symptoms like migraines, bloody noses, flu-like symptoms, asthmatic cough that wouldn't get better. People had rashes inside their mouth that were burning through their cheeks. I have images of rashes, looks like heat rashes on their arms. And they said it tastes like a constant chemical smell. Almost like, think about standing next to a freshly chlorinated pool type situation. Very strong chemical smell. And so, I'm gonna cover this, because here's where this gets interesting. So, these batteries were built in 2022. Not even 3 years by their anniversary, they were considered old technology. So, those were lithium ion phosphate batteries. That was nickel, manganese, and cobalt was primarily in them. And so now they're saying that's old technology, they know not to do that now, blah, 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 right? The new technology is lithium iron phosphate. This is now safe, right? This is what they're claiming. Meanwhile, that's 2 to 3 years old technology. They are already planning for this technology, the new technology, to be outdated by 2027 with salt batteries. So they are already expecting these to not last 5 years. But they're doing contracts for 25 to 30 years. Not one single utility battery energy storage system has been active in the United States for 10 years. And not a single one has been active in the United States for 5 years without an incident, okay? So, we're looking at that, and we're seeing this, and we do have legislation things, and we'll circle back to that, but the biggest concern I have is they're building these next to schools. They're building these on farmland. They're building them next to your generational land, and in some cases, they're even taking it and contaminating it. The probability is higher than you would like it to be. Since 2020, I have a spreadsheet with more than 59 runaways that have occurred since 2020. Even on the way here, I read an article. So in 2023, EPRI released the report. 60% of the failures were caused by the control systems, and 40% had no known root cause, right? They didn't know what the issue was. As of the article I just read on the way here, it's now 72% of the time is control system failures, and the other remaining percent is still unknown, okay? So if there's a failure, it's due to the control system. So, with that, these are people leasing their land. This is your neighbor allowing them to build it next to you. It will affect you. Let me explain. Whenever they say it's private property, I want to be very clear. Private property only applies up to the end of your property line. The moment it crosses into my property line, it is no longer a private issue. That is very basic common sense, right? These are affecting property values. There are people that their property value has gone down more than $70,000 in multiple locations. This is affecting your home insurance. Churches and other people have had their insurance taken away due to proximity of build. Even though they're generational land, and even though they were there, like there was a church in Fannin County that lost their home insurance or their coverage. They've been there longer than this build, but they came in and lost their insurance. Now, if you have a mortgage and they take away your insurance coverage for your home, that is a requirement of your mortgage, which means that you either have to pay your mortgage in full or forfeit your mortgage loan, because that is a requirement, same as with a car, a brand new one. And this is a common occurrence. On top of that, you now have this loud sound next to your home, these on and off lights, these potential hazard concerns. And so, let's go into that hazard a bit further. Whenever these start to off-gas, those toxic gases, you have to be evacuated. Anywhere from 1 mile up to 8 miles have been evacuated in these fires. Schools and highways have been shut down. And it's not a choice. So what does it look like when it starts to off gas and starts to go into runaway? Your fire department will come out. Now, our fire chief and others had training on this, and I'm going to tell you what that looked like. Their job, should an incident occur, is to show up, stand at the gate, and wait for the professionals. That's their training. Now they know how to handle it. They wait for the professionals, was what the advice they were given. The professionals, being the gentlemen in hazmat suits, that have full head-to-toe coverage, as our fire chief and our fire personnel stand outside that gate and wait for them, the quote-unquote professionals, that are covered in head-to-toe while they are not. To be clear, current fire PPE does not protect from these type of toxic gases. It gets in their coats, it gets in their pants. They need full hazmat coverage, no exposure of any kind. That's not what their masks do. And on top of that, you can't put water on it, so what do? The current practice is let it burn out. That can be anywhere from 12 hours to 2 weeks, until it's done burning, essentially is what it does. And you start with an evacuation zone, usually about 1.3 to 2 miles. That's your evacuation zone. And then the other remaining 5 miles out from that typically goes into indoor lockdown. You have to stay in your house, turn off your AC, turn off your heat. You cannot have any airflow in or out, and you cannot exit your home if you choose to stay there. There have been multiple cases at both Fredericktown, Missouri, Monterey Bay, and other locations that after these runaways occurred, multiple cases of livestock stillbirths. They do not evacuate your animals. If they evacuate you, they only evacuate you. Not your goats, not your cows, not your pigs, not your chickens. You are evacuated and you do not get to go back. You do not get a choice. You have to leave at that moment because it is that toxic. There's a reason we have carbon monoxide detectors in our home, right? So whenever they say private property, I want to be very clear. If you put solar on your house, I can understand that being private. You want a backup generator for your house? That I can see as private. When you cross into utility grade sizes that impact property value, home insurance, and safety, that is whenever it's no longer private. So anytime they say, well, there's nothing we can do, it's private property, that is not accurate. I'm going to tell you what you can do. We're going to circle back. So, when it goes into, actually here, the gentleman that did the bills, I'm sorry, I don't see him right now. Okay, so I actually happen to work with security of the grid. That's the priority for the RPT. I actually happen to work with them quite often. We've done symposiums in Austin, we've done events at the Capitol. One of the bills that is currently made it to the governor's desk is 3089. That's for decommissioning or remediation. This will help because right now, if your neighbor signs a bill or signs a contract and starts doing this, we're seeing a lot of these incidences where they are signing these contracts with 3-letter LLCs, limited liability. They close that LLC, your contract is now voided, and you're now responsible for everything. Look at Sweetwater, Texas. This is not the first incident. This has happened multiple times. Sweetwater, Texas is covered in wind turbines. Covered and can't get it cleaned up because they have to do it and it's expensive. So what does decommissioning look like? If it's a $90 million build, the starting cost for decommissioning is 3 times that at $270 million for decommissioning and cleanup. And if they close their contract, you as the homeowner are now responsible to clean that up. It is not an option, it's a toxic chemical, it has to be cleaned up. When you can't afford $270 million starting cost, it falls to the county. The county has to step in and clean it up because, again, it's a toxic chemical, it cannot be left. When the county cannot afford $270 million for one cleanup site, you now became a super fund. EPA will step in and clean it up for you, but you, everybody in the county, is now going to pay your taxes for that. You're going to pay. Your money's going to go up to pay up to clean that up. It is not an option. It has to be done. And if the homeowner, even though it's private property, signs his contract and it's his thing, at the end of the day, it is not an option to be left. It has to be cleaned up. And it can fall on you as taxpayers. Hopefully, Senate Bill 30 or House Bill 3089 will fix this. It's made it to the governor's desk. That's a move in the right direction. So I'm gonna play this. This is just some news clips of different exposures of news stations for these bills. If you wouldn't mind.
That breaking news, just horrible. A massive lithium battery fire in Surprise and at least 8 firefighters hurt in an explosion.
We want to get. Yeah, well, Steve and Katie, this is a very active scene, and what we know now is that the injured firefighters were transported to several Valley hospitals, some of them by ground, some of them by helicopter. I want to step out of the way to give you a look at what we're seeing out here, a very large response. We've seen firefighters and fire agencies from multiple agencies out here on the scene.
This not only affected fire crews who were out there, but people who were nearby in the West Valley going about their normal Friday night when all of a sudden they hear something more, a loud boom interrupting normal Friday night activities.
Yeah, we just talked to one dad actually. He was at baseball practice with his son.
I mean, it was a big boom and ground shook and everyone got stopped practice when it was going on.
Now let's get to development news out of Monterey County. A fire burning one of the world's largest lithium battery storage facilities, and it continues to burn more than 24 hours after it started. Residents near the Moss Landing facility, they're still out of their homes this afternoon.
I think the biggest thing we're worried about right now, Aaron, is air quality, and we're getting very few answers.
We don't have a lot of answers, and it's that thick black smoke that you see coming up from this fire over the course of the last 36 hours or so that is so concerning. It is releasing chemicals into the air. That we know. The real concern and what we don't know a lot about is the potential impact on people.
But the concern on the outside is what is being pushed out into the air. That's why you're seeing evacuation orders issued in this area. The fire started after 3 this afternoon, but it really grew in the evening. Around 1,500 people are under those evacuation orders. And then in addition, beyond those evacuation orders, officials as far north as Santa Cruz County are asking people to stay inside and close their doors and windows and to shut off air systems until further notice. A Monterey County supervisor spoke to just how serious the situation is.
Well, there's no way to sugarcoat it. This is a disaster.
He said it best. It is a disaster. So I'm going to go into this in a second. I'm going to add some details. EPA was at Monterey Bay as well. They were present. They had their sensors out. If you search Moss Landing and EPA right now, I guarantee you're going to find where they said everything was clear and good to go. I encourage you to dive deeper because they also state that they didn't know how to test for everything. So what they had said everything was free and clear, but they didn't know how to test for these other gases that were toxic. So that is concerning. EPA has failed in multiple cases of our history, and at least 2 times for fact that I can prove in batteries. And this is an ongoing trend. You know, they're saying everything's free and clear, but if you go to that QR code I sent you and you look up Moss Landing, those lab reports do not say that. That is not what it says. And then let's go into this a bit further. Why? Why the batteries? What is their purpose? They are to fix the failures of solar and wind. So let's go into those for a second. Let's go into wind. Wind is an intermittent energy. On average, it provides 7 hours of energy. Look it up. This is provable. I have the information. Even if it is windy 24/7, you will only get 7 hours a day of wind. Solar is 4.8 on average.
It doesn't matter if it's sunny for 15 hours, you're only getting 4.8. As long as it's not too windy and not too hot. As long as the snow isn't on the panels, and as long as the blades aren't frozen, right? So, we're looking at that. So let's go to the wind for a second. So we know that they're big, they're ugly, right? No big deal. It's still supposed to be clean energy. They are made with fiberglass on their blades. The people that have to go up there and work on them have to be in full hazmat suits as they work and fix them if there's an incident. On top of that, there are medical studies that show paranoia and psychoactive breaks, because even though you can't hear it at an ear level, you can actually, your brain can receive it through a pillow more than 9.8 miles out. Because even though it's like a dog whistle, you can't hear it, they can, your brain still receives those, even if you don't know that you are. And they can cause depression, suicide, anger, and a lot of other things. Solar, they have galvanized metal that they put over 20 feet into the ground, which starts to leach and affects the soil. That's bad, okay? Windstorms, even if it's not a tornado or hail, windstorms have broken many of farms out in East Texas. Franklin County being a prime example of the farm destroyed. You can look it up. They're just thrown around. And it wasn't a tornado. It wasn't hail. It was just a windy day. And every time that happens, when they shard like that, you have cadmium and lead that go into your ground as well. But even if that doesn't happen, and let's just really think about that for a second. You have it on farm agricultural land. Your panels are catching the sun, which means those seedlings, those seeds that have built up generations of growth in that ground, they do not get any sunlight for the entire duration it's there, 5, 10, 20 years, which means it kills all the seeds, all that biodiversity in that ground, the minerals and the greens themselves. You have a desert-like effect now, similar to what will be caused by a dust bowl. In Nacogdoches, Texas, where they are known for their timber, they are building a 3,000-acre solar farm. What will happen to all those seeds? These are just starting points. But the purpose of this, let's go a bit further as to why batteries cannot fix the failures of solar and wind. Now, I'm going to explain how the grid works. I had to learn, so I'm just going to share it with you. So for those that don't know, we have an inertia-based grid. An object in motion stays in motion, which makes sense because you want your energy to keep flowing and moving, right? Think out Einstein, E equals mc squared. We've all heard that in one capacity or another, right? So you have these synchronized generators that are cycling your energy through. They're pushing it through. Your base loads, nuclear, gas, coal, they create an intense inertia, which is why they are a base load. Think of it like throwing a boulder down the side of a mountain. You're going to want to move, right? But then solar and wind, take a little pebble, it does nothing. It does not create any inertia. So, one of the biggest things I keep hearing brought up is Winter Storm Uri. We need all the energy because of Winter Storm Uri. I'm not saying the energy is bad, I'm saying it's not compatible. Not all energy is compatible with the grid we have created, which is why they need all the new transmission lines and all these new things, right? Because even though energy is cheaper, our cost of electricity has gone up 28% in the last few years because you were paying for those transmission lines that they need to run these. And if we really look at Winter Storm Uri, let's look at what really happened here. So yeah, we had the coal plants didn't have coal up to burn it when we needed it, right? And then we also had the gas locations that somebody gave a wrong signal to turn off that area, and that area had a gas plant, which means they turn off that, you don't have gas in it, right? Even if those two things still happened, we would have only had rolling blackouts for 30 minutes. It would have been no water loss, no life loss if we did not have solar and wind. So what were they doing at that time? At 1 o'clock in the morning, solar was 100% failure. Wind that was in the grid was operating at a 5% capacity. And every time our inertia from our base load hit these weak points, it caused further failure, okay? So let's look at the inertias, so those synchronized generators, right? If you're a child and you're on a swing, and you're swinging back and forth, and you're building up that momentum, and someone comes and yanks that chain, and you start to wobble, you jump ship, right? Because it's chaos. Those generators, when they start to wobble from that offset energy, they shut down. They shut down as a protection mechanism
so the entire grid doesn't fail, so they shut down that area. So on this side, West Texas, for the latter part, y'all had rolling blackouts. Where I lived, we only had blackout. There was nothing. There was no rolling anything. We had nothing. And there is a very real thing to be discussed there. We're not talking about the fact that solar and wind isn't compatible. There are multiple written articles about how the wind will cause our grid to collapse. And that's actually, I'll provide anybody that wants it. There's a webinar that says that we may be lucky to make it to August of 2026. We'll make it through this summer and the winter, but most likely by July or August through the next heat wave, our grid will likely collapse because we are building a ton of solar, wind, and battery, but battery itself does not create inertia either. And the truth is it's more dangerous. It actually costs 11 times more to build a battery farm than it does a baseload energy, and we have not built any new baseload energy of any kind. We're putting incompatible energy into our grid while not putting in baseload either to offset it, should it fail. So right here, because if that wasn't bad enough, let's make it a little bit worse. So right here, this is a congressional letter. This is from December 2023. Yeah. This was by Senator Marco Rubio and 26 other Congress members. This was in reference to Lake Lejeune military base. There was a battery energy storage system built there named Duke Energy. They learned that China could remotely access the base through this battery energy storage system because one of the biggest things you're hearing a lot of, they're remotely operated 24/7. Remotely operated 24/7. China built the source code. They built the control systems in these. This company, CATL, C-A-T-L, that one right there, they build more than 78% of the control systems being used in the United States. What you're seeing in this letter is that Lake Lejeune military base, Senator Marco Rubio and them had to remove these from all military bases due to a national security threat. Meanwhile, I have confirmation in Van Zandt County, we'll get to that one next, but in Van Zandt County, near the one near my home, I have evidence, but you'll see it in here, where they are using CATL software, and the one right next to my house. One of the things that I didn't tell you that is actually interesting, Fluence Energy is building our batteries, the ones in Van Zandt. Fluence Energy built the batteries in 2021 Moss Landing. Remember I told you it was built in 22? That's because they already had an incident in 21 and had to build new ones. The incident in 2021 was built by Fluence Energy. They started to off-gas. The control system set off the fire suppression system at the wrong time, which caused it to go into runaway. Remember me saying 72% of the time it's the control system? That's what happened. So Fluence Energy has a lawsuit against them from that incident in Moss Landing, another one for an energy called Diablo Energy, and then also from their parent company. So AES and Siemens, most people have heard of Siemens, they came together and they made Fluence Energy. Fluence Energy has a lawsuit against them from Siemens for investor fraud and faulty equipment use. And meanwhile, they're building next to my home with national security threat software. Okay? Oh, go back. So right here, this is, I cannot emphasize enough, this webinar, everybody needs to see this. You need to see what they say, because that CATL software, when China flips that switch, they have more than 500 generators, or not generators, oh my gosh, I just blinked the word. Transformers. So they have more than 500 transformers for our grid, the big 500 ton or whatever they are, ones that they can control right now. It's been proven. They actually did an aurora test on it to see how long from the moment of ignition to, like, if they could get somebody there. From the moment that they activated it to the time it exploded, literally exploded, was less than 3 minutes, okay? These experts that are on here are people like Sam Fettis. He is a retired CIA clandestine operative. These are people that have worked on these for years. Incidentally, I work with many of these people, and that's where the fear comes from, is because the experts are telling me this is a problem. And I know for a fact, because I have the evidence saying
they are still using that software. So I highly recommend looking here. And then also, there's something interesting. So JP Morgan and Bank of America raised $4.4 billion in the international market for CATL. Right? Somebody gasped. You're right. So, and then going a step further, CATL, or CATL, is known for being a Chinese military company, a company that exploits slave labor, and that is actually helping the PLA to kill Americans. Confirmed. Yet they are still building in America. And again, we have more than 950 of these being built in Texas. Okay? So this is the letter I was talking about. This is Van Zandt County. This is from Tulare in Nigeria. That Amador battery, that's the name of that one that you saw pictures of being built. The highlighted part, they use CATL software. There's your confirmation directly from the company. So, does our government know? They absolutely know. This is from Governor Abbott in November 2024. This is the executive order GA-49. China said they would use our infrastructure and grid to harm us. I say believe them. Their last attempt to attack our grid and get into our infrastructure and grid was 2023 under the Gulf Typhoon. Now, most of you probably remember where our phones were hacked, the big phone companies were hacked. That was the Gulf Typhoon, but it wasn't just your phones that they got into. Right here, this is Dr. Emma Stewart. She testified at the Supreme Court in March. So there are some key things that I want to emphasize from that Supreme Court hearing. One of the first is they asked one of the other panelists, they asked him, what does it look like when China attacks? When they do this cyber threat, what does that look like? They said, you're going to see it in two parts. You're going to see them take down your telecoms and your internet first. Most of your Wi-Fi routers, your phones, your other little things, they are in the wires in all the ways that they're going to take those out first. And the reason why is so that our military can't get to the point of theater where they need to be for the attack. Second, they're going to take down our infrastructure and grid. They're going to do it to cause mass chaos. And they may do it by flipping the switch and doing that, but more than likely, and you'll see in that webinar if you watch it, they're going to do it in two parts. They're going to do the switches, they're going to do the kill switch and all of them, but you're probably going to see it through EMP. Now, most people think EMP is this made-up thing or it's the boogeyman in the night, right? No, it's very real. It's very common, and matter of fact, that's probably what happened in Spain. And if you don't know about that, the Iberian blackout happened, and they were without power for 14 hours. A lot of the experts speculate that it was China testing if it worked. Now, what that looks like is you will not be lights out, candles on for a couple hours, and it comes back on. If China takes down our infrastructure and grid and hits us with an EMP, you don't have airplanes, you don't have phones, you do not have anything electrical. Your car is electrical, your phone is electrical, your airplanes are electrical. Anything electrical will be killed. And it will not be a matter of replacing it, it will not be usable ever again. Primarily our transformers, which operate our grid, which come from China because nobody in the United States knows how to build them yet. Not a single location in the United States builds transformers, and on average it takes 5 to 6 years. If China decides to go this route, we will not have a backup transformer. And the next thing she said, and this is key, one of the members asked, Dr. Stewart, what do we need to do today? What does America need to do today to start protecting ourselves? And very plainly she stated, do not buy the cheapest. This has been a 20-year implementation from China. It's proven. We've known since the early 2000s that they wanted to do this. And you're going to see that from the experts. They provide their evidence. Okay? They did it by making it available in the cheapest. Even ERCOT is a market-driven corporation. They are a non-profit corporation, and they run 90% of the Texas grid. And to be clear, they are not a state agency. They are a non-profit organization that is market-driven. They want the cheapest. So, thanks to the Biden administration, they gave them the Inflation Reduction Act, which, as taxpayers, we have paid more than $2 trillion towards since 2023. That's just the IRA. And then you go into the subsidies. So there is a Senate Bill 715. This is by Sparks. What this does, and I actually find this interesting, is they're blasting it like Power Up Texas, and everybody's posting it all over social media and all these things stating, if you don't tell them no, it's going to make your electricity cost go up. Let's go over what Senate Bill 715 does. Senate Bill 715 is about the subsidies that these energy industries are getting. So baseload, coal, nuclear, gas, produce 24/7. Solar and wind do not, but they are getting paid as if they are, because this was created for baseload energy. What Senate Bill 715 is trying to do is pay them based off of production. So if they don't produce, they don't get paid. Because right now, even if they produce net zero, they are being paid. This takes that away. If we get rid of solar and wind and put baseload energy, China's building 400 coal plants, but they're selling all of these to us. Why do you think that is? They know what they're doing. They're not trying to build solar farms everywhere. They are building 400 coal plants. And meanwhile, we're paying them in the Inflation Reduction Act and in subsidies as if they are going to keep us afloat. Not all energy is compatible with everything. And on top of that, you have agencies that are supposed to govern them, like Texas Commission of Environmental Quality, giving them grants. So meanwhile, while a battery energy storage system technically costs 11 times more to build than a baseload plant, because of all these extra incentives between taxes, IRA, and things like that, they are now the cheapest. Matter of fact, ERCOT went to the Public Utility Commission and told them that we need at least 3 new generators. It would be $54 million. And PUC said, no, build battery energy storage systems. These two things are not even close to the same thing. Our grid needs generators, and meanwhile, the batteries will not do anywhere close to that. So that's an important detail. So, all that information is saying, what can you do, right? So, there are 2 things. I'm going to start with the thing that you can start with today, and that is the National Fire Protection Code 855. Okay? The 855 can do a lot of things. It can allow you to get site-specific plans. That's how we know they're using that software. You can do emergency site-specific plans. So like, well, there's a lot of generics, this is what your county will do. What this does is says, yeah, but what is my fire department doing in this right now? Where are they at? Show me your plan, site-specific plan. They gave us a generic one and we said, no, site-specific. Another thing, and even if so they'll tell you we don't require water, can't put water on lithium, that's true. But in the fire codes, these specific systems have a calculation for how much water they are required to provide. So even if they say, well, we can't put water in anyway, so we don't need that, you say, that's fine. The fire code says you do provide that. Okay? The next thing, the underwater laboratory testing for those lithium cells, we received the test. 3 key things came from that test that we noticed. The first, the cells were activating and off-gassing to oxygen, so they were already reacting to oxygen. They failed that test. The next test they failed was it staying within the container and not being exposed? They failed that one. But what I thought was most interesting is they did not use an approved underwater laboratory location. They did not use, so we did not accept their plans because it was not an approved one based off the codes. So, with that, I'm going to go a step further. Van Dyke County, we currently have these batteries stocked. So, to give you context, we requested in December proof that they were meeting the fire standards. They provided some information, but not all of it in January. Again, in January requested, got it back in February, which is where you saw the CATL in there. Again, they did not provide all of it. Requested again in February, got it back in March. Requested again in March. By April, we have now requested 4 times, and they have yet to provide information. Up to and including, they have to prove that they are in a remote location, which is 500 feet from any structure. You remember that pipeline I mentioned? They are not providing evidence they are not near that pipeline. And based off the location, more than likely that's because if they move it over, they're now on that ranger's fence line. So one of the things they have not provided is proof of water,
proof of remote location, proof of approved laboratory and past testing. So our county passed a resolution stating that under no circumstances are any batteries to enter Van Zandt County until you have been provided and shown to be approved by the fire marshal to meet all standards and codes. They have already requested 3 extensions. I know for a fact they hired Hiller for standards and codes by over $50 million, and they still haven't provided it. Meanwhile, to the news, they are still maintaining they are meeting all the fire standards and codes. If that is the case, why have we been trying to get that proof since December and we're about to be in June? We are now in litigation against them. There are 3 potential outcomes right now. So, the first is they provide all the evidence that they state that they have, and they continue operation. Their batteries were supposed to be delivered in April, and they still are not there because they have yet to provide that information, stalling their production. The second is they decide that it's not worth the hassle, they're going to shut it down, project's gone. The third is we're going to go into litigation. They have to prove their side, we have to prove ours, we're building our experts, they're building theirs. And then it depends on who wins. We're pretty sure that that 500-foot setback and that proof is not going to be achievable. Can't say till certain, but that's what the speculation is. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, you will know exactly what your county is expected to do should an incident occur, even if they provide everything. You know what you're looking at. You know where your argument is. You know how to protect your people. So, I'm going to go back for a second. The other one you see here is a 391 commission. Now, Texas is, we know that they want our land. We've known for a long time that corporations want our land, right? So what the 391 does is it gives voice to the counties, to the unincorporated areas. Dallas, Houston, and others, they have a voice. We cannot say, no, the zoning and ordinance is here. Those are not options. What this does is it allows for 2 counties, 2 cities, 2 special districts, or 1 of each, 1 county, 1 city, 1 special district, 1 county. So it is technically called the 391 Sub-Regional Planning Commission. That is the section you want. What this does, it allows you to coordinate with agencies like TCEQ, EPA, and PUC, Public Utility Commission, to say, is this really the right location next to this water source? Is this really the right location when we don't have a fire department for 15 miles? Is it really the right location next to this prison? How are we going to evacuate then? And that's a thing in Austin County. Is this really the safest for the people in this community? And it allows you to do this for the safety, welfare, and concerns of the citizens. And this was put in because the government, those that put it in, like Evan Blair, they knew that the government was overreaching. This is to protect from overreach. Those generational lands that we've had, I'm the 3rd generation of my land. No, I don't want to move. Just because you want to build there, no, I don't want to move. This is where I want my kids to live. This is where I want to die. This is where my grandmother was. This is where my mother was. I do not want to move just because you want to come in and build something that is not compatible with our grid and is a national security threat. So, I can provide that information as well to go a bit further into that. Alright, so this is a big thing. Knowing is half the battle. The next is action. So yes, you can use fire codes. The biggest thing that everybody in this room can do, talk to your neighbors, talk to people you run into, talk to people on social media. Do not stop talking because it's such a simple thing. You now know. The best thing you can do is make sure others know because knowledge is power. And I truly believe we've gotten where we've gotten in all capacities of government that are failing us right now because we stopped talking to one another. We stopped talking to our neighbor. We stopped talking to family members about politics and religion because it was too tense or too tough. Have those tough conversations respectfully, but have them nonetheless. And as you've seen with Trump, we're starting to pull back that veil like he stated. And we have to really get people more activated and engaged. And I can provide you as much as I can. I can get you my Facebook. I can get you my TikTok that I created, which, by the way, if you can't tell, I'm not a very tech person, so I'm doing the best I can. We'll figure it out together. That is our best case scenario. So, I just threw a lot at you, and I'm going to answer all questions that you ask, starting with you.
Yeah, the question I have is, if you take away the incentive, tax incentive, so forth, solar and wind, how
So actually, as a matter of fact, you say that. So the first quarter, from January to April, between the tariffs that Trump put against China and them, they have lost, so in the 4 months where they would be building contracts, they lost the equivalent of 30 months of contracts. So if you affect the money, you affect how it's, yes, that does matter. And I can tell you that they are trying to do that at multiple levels. I happen to have a friend that was recently interviewed on the Donald Trump Jr. podcast who's speaking out about that, and he actually owns a solar and backup battery farm. And what they're doing is what he does. Goodness, I forgot where I was going. Okay, so his stuff I can get behind, because look, I feel like solar and batteries have a place, and that's for off-grid use, because it's not compatible with our grid. But if our grid goes down, you should have some kind of alternative power source for your home. So solar and battery for your home, while it may not be my thing, I can get behind it being private property. But him in an individual sector, even he is speaking out in Vegas and Washington, D.C. at multiple levels, saying that the IRA is a fraud, it's a scam. And at a convention in Vegas recently, he actually went up there and said that you're scamming the people, you should do better. So, money doesn't impact it. Anybody else have a question? Good. Okay, well, if you think of any. All right, well, thank y'all. If you have any questions, let me know.
So I was listening to her, and I want to bring to your attention, and I may need Shannon left. Oh, I may need Shannon's help because she knows so much more about this. So as I know right now, I think in Hood County we have 2 of these BESS facilities. One of them sits right between our 2 power plants. Now that's kind of a bad place, I would think. So if they ever did a runaway and that, we would be in big trouble here. So Shannon, you want to come up here with me because you know so much more about this? Shannon's been really dedicating a lot of time and work into the Wolf Hollow problem that we have. And so a lot of you guys don't realize that we already have 2, right, BESS, 3 BESS here in Hood County.
Yes, the largest BESS system in Texas is located on Power Plant Road in Precinct 211. It is right next to a gas power plant. Now I'm hearing tonight that, well, that's by design. I kind of thought maybe it was, but just think about the fire that is described right next to a gas power plant. What could possibly go wrong, right? The other thing that the next one is advanced in the petitions and to TCEQ and such, and it's on Membrino Highway, not very far from the elementary school, and right next to a preschool. And on the other side is Membrino Baptist. So again, what could possibly go wrong? And then the next one, there is a solar power plant, not a power plant, there's a solar farm that is planning to be built, 600 acres in Hood County, and I think a little bit more than 600 acres in Somerville County, so it's right on the county line. Again, Precinct 211, and I was, Sharon heard me say before, 211 is now being called the sacrificial zone, and quite frankly, I don't feel like sacrificing this, so we're trying to push back on it. I think that we're going to find in the next few years that the things that are coming into Hood County are detrimental to everyone in Hood County and beyond, in ERAF and in Somerville and such. Especially some of the things that we heard tonight. Now, I knew about the toxins, I already knew about that. What I didn't know is that it cannot be exposed to air or water. I didn't know those 2 things. I do know that the power plant that is on Power Plant Road, it is right on Lake Granbury. So just imagine what will happen to Lake Granbury should anything erupt or should a fire happen. So that is a huge concern of mine. Again, what could possibly go wrong, right? But 3 that are being, 1 that's already been built, 2 more in the pipeline here. We're really concerned about the people that live in my precinct concern. These are ranches and just homes and people who've been there for generations, and they're being told that they have to sell. So I just heard that there's a ranch that is 3 generations of ranchers there just sold, and Clark Realty, and I'll tell you who it is, it's Clark Realty, is selling it and advertising it to data centers. So they're advertising the land for data centers to come and build. Again, what could go wrong?
So again, the people of Mitchell Bend, which is right in that area, so the people of Mitchell Bend have been working on trying to make themselves a city. Okay, they've done all their documentation. They followed the state regulations right along the line, so that Marathon can't come back and try to sue them over it. So they followed them very closely, and they're trying to get the state to make them a small city. Once they do that, then they can regulate emissions and regulate noise, which is one of the data mining issues and those kind of things that we've been hearing about over the last few years. So this sounds like even with the BESS, there's going to be more noise out in that area. I think I wanted to bring this to you guys because I know a lot of you that live in 211 or right in that area are aware of the issue we have and the possible disaster. I mean, when I'm sitting there and I'm looking at one of those sitting between or near a power plant, and they're wanting to build a 3rd power plant at Wolf Hollow, and because right now the Wolf Hollow 2 that was designed to power at about 66% when it was first built is now at 99 plus, and it's blowing its valves. And if you don't know what that is, the valves are what keeps the toxins out of the air. So as they blow those valves, toxins are blowing into our environment. So this is something we really need to pay attention to. I'm asking you guys to get on board. I'm asking you to get behind Shannon and her team, and let's get something done about this. And what Nancy was saying, some of the things that we may can do with our county, go to our county judge, go to our commissioners, and let's see if we can't get something through them on the fire. Another thing, because I know Shannon had also reported that the closest fire department to the BESS is really going to be Glen Rose, because if it's Pecan's got to go all the way out to 144, down and back around. So really, Glen Rose is the closest fire department if anything happened there. And Centerville is working closely with Mitchell Bend. They're working together. This is part of what they're doing. So again, just want to bring you guys' attention. Hope you enjoyed the program tonight, got something from it. And let's get behind ProtectYourCounty.com. As we always do, we have our Wes come up here and end our meeting.
This song prayer sounds like it needs to be extra earnest. If you what's right. God bless us.